So speaking of really rough,
No.
I love it.
just Penn State has a game against Ohio State. We talk about Hendon Hooker and the Heisman, and everyone says it's CJ Stroud's award to lose and yada, yada, yada. From just an X's and O's kind of perspective and being that kind of, quarterback, can you give me just a general view of what you think of CJ Stroud? I'm not the biggest fan. I'll just go ahead and let you know that. But give me like a comparison between Hendon and Stroud and why you think one should win over the other.
Oh, God, how much time do we have? Here's the hard part. And so I'm going to answer this also with a question I saw about who should be number one coming, like in when the polls come out. If you look, the college football playoff is about best four teams, right? That's the definition, best four. If you look at Tennessee's resume, and this is not because it's University of Tennessee. If you look at their resume, the only team to beat, four ranked teams. The last three games have been ranked opponents, blah, 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 right? Outside of UT Martin, but Florida, LSU, Bama. That being the case, look at Ohio State's schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the kids can't help it. It's not, they're not the ones that schedule. That might be in Power 5. That might be the biggest cupcake of a schedule that I've seen in a long time this year. Now, good for them for doing what they're supposed to do and winning the games by lot, blah, 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 right? But Notre Dame turned out to be not so great of a win. And it's funny, the Notre Dame turned out not to be so great of a win. Our LSU is turning into be a better win than I first said it would be.
Right.
Which is surprising to me because I was like, after the game, I was like, LSU's trash. Like, it is what it is. It's not that great of a win. And now I'm like, ooh, hold on. I'm not saying it's a top 5 win, but now it's turning into be a more legitimate win. Notre Dame for Ohio State's turning into being a very sub-mediocre win. And so their only ranked opponents that they're going to play that are legitimate are Michigan and Penn State. And that is it. Nobody else. So I'm saying that to say if I'm voting, that hurts CJ. Because they're not playing top-tier competition. You better put up a lot of stats. You better put up gaudy numbers. But I also said last week when we played UT Martin, the Heisman is about wow factor nowadays. Used to not necessarily be, but wow factor. How big are your stats? How much, did you blow people out? Blah, blah, blah. So Hendon coming out in the first half last week and only throwing for like 250, I say only. I think that may have hurt him in the long run because Ohio State's going to leave him in and run it up. Right? They're going to get his stats up. So I do think it hurts him. I don't think it should. But we're doing things better in the sense of getting them out when they need to be out, beating the ranked teams that we need to beat, and actually playing a hard schedule. So if it's me, I give the edge to Hendon because of those. But I don't think the people voting will give that edge to him because it's Ohio State and it's the wow factor. They've been there. They've been, a longer term pedigree than we have lately. I don't think it's fair, but I think that's what would be happening.
Well, there is zero question that Tennessee should be ranked. If it is based on your body of work, they should be ranked in the college football playoff ahead.
No, they should be number one.
Yeah.
Even up ahead of Georgia. If you look at resume.
Yes.
Now, obviously this week and next week will play a big factor in that. But if it were to come out right this second, and I've seen so many people say this week, if you go by resume, it's not even close.
No. And it comes out Tuesday. The first one comes out Tuesday.
And you know what I'm saying? Like, and I hate to say it, and this is not an Ohio State hate comment, but Ohio State should be like 7, 8, or 9 if you're going by resume.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
TCU should be above them.
I mean, let's look for those that don't follow this closely. Let's look real quick at Ohio State. Okay, so they beat Notre Dame, who at the time was ranked 5, but now Notre Dame
put a very lackluster performance together.
Lackluster, and Notre Dame's 4-3, and I can tell you, no offense to the head coach at Notre Dame, I didn't think that was a good hire at the time because he was a player's coach. I've been told by multiple people in the coaching community that's not going to work out. Nevertheless, so Ohio State,
they lost to Marshall. Notre Dame lost to Marshall.
Yeah, so they're now sitting at 4-3. So I think my sources were right on that one. We'll see. And then Ohio State, getting back to Ohio State, they beat Arkansas State 45-12, Toledo 77-21. I mean, what's even the point of beating an in-state school like that? I don't know. Wisconsin 52-21, who's having their issues. Rutgers.
Well, and the thing is, people go preseason with Wisconsin. They've already fired their coach, for God's sake.
Yeah, I know. So, and then Rutgers 49-10. What's a Rutgers? Michigan State 49-20.
But Michigan State's having their woes.
Yeah, they are. I mean, I was really surprised that Mel Tucker got that kind of contract. I thought he had a good year last year. And then Iowa, who seems to be having a total meltdown, 54-10. Yeah, I mean that is. I mean, literally, John, I'm not exaggerating. If Tennessee played that schedule and wanted to, could they average 80 points a game? If they 100%. Really, foot to the pedal the entire 4 quarters.
Well, yeah, I mean, think about it. Even with the schedule that we have now, we're averaging 45. And that's playing Alabama, LSU, Florida, right? Like it's not a fluff. Pitt. Yeah, Pitt. So think about it. The ranked teams that we have already played: Pitt, Florida, LSU, Bama, and then it's coming up Kentucky, Georgia. I mean, that's over half. That's half your schedule that are going to be in the top 25. Ohio State, that ain't happening that way.
South Carolina, they've made the top 25 too. So just FYI. No one knows that.
Honestly, if they win a game or two, they might still be in the top 25 when we play them. That would be 7 to 8 teams out of 12 that are ranked. And that's all I'm saying is like Ohio State is Ohio State until they're not. But their resume is the only reason, or their schedules year in, year out are only reason why they're Ohio State.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like it's just, to me, that's just what it is.
That's very, very true. I mean, okay, so I see, and I'm jumping ahead, but I've called Tennessee beating Georgia, and I understand everyone's nervous about that game, but everybody was also nervous about the Alabama game and thought that they were going to get beat, and that didn't happen. If I had to choose between Hendon Hooker and Stetson Bennett, if I had to choose between Georgia's offense and Tennessee's offense, I would take Tennessee all day. Like all day, hands down, wouldn't matter. What do you feel as Tennessee is now, that game, how do you feel that is going to play out? I know you can't obviously see the future, but what do you see as a possibility of Tennessee winning that game?
Very high. Sorry, I got a spider I got to kill. Hold on.
Yeah. Oh, they're good though.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry, that was quick.
Oh.
Sorry, little guy.
Yeah. The judge, jury, executioner, right there. And it took less than a second.
It caught my eye, and I was like, crap. I was hoping it was going to crawl towards me. It didn't. All right, so sorry. I do think that we give Georgia the biggest fit that they've played all year. I think a game changer. What's that kid's name? Number 0, the big 6'8", 6'9" tight end, LeBron James looking dude. For Georgia. I cannot remember his name. Is it Washington, maybe?
Or which position again? I'm sorry, John.
Tight end, number 0.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. I'll figure out his name. Go right ahead.
He is, to me, he's the wild factor because dude is just a freak athlete at his size, and he's matched up on a linebacker. I think that is a huge matchup to watch in that game. Bowers, I see somebody said Bowers. No, Bowers is great, but Bowers, we can still match up with a DB or a linebacker. Washington, it doesn't matter who you are. You ain't matching up with him size-wise. He is a mismatch all day long. So to me, that's going to be a big, big, big matchup to watch personally. But I just don't think that their defense is ready for what we do. But if people are going to sit here and think that Kirby's not calling Nick and going, hey,
it's Washington.
Hey, what can I do to stop blah, 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 then we're wrong because that phone call will happen.
Well, according to Pro Football Focus, Georgia has 3 tight ends going into the seasons that were among the top 15. That's pretty crazy and unheard of. So that's going to be a challenge for Tennessee's defense. But it sounds like we're having a realistic conversation, and we're allowed to get ahead of ourselves. Hendon Hooker and Jacob Warren and Cooper Mays aren't. But it sounds like we're having a realistic conversation here. And on our YouTube page, John Adams picked Tennessee not only to win this weekend, but to beat Georgia and to beat Alabama again. It sounds like we're having the real conversation that Tennessee might be the best team in the nation. Literally.
Well, and I've said that because of resume. And I've also said this not like publicly, but just to some of my friends. If we screw around and win this week and next week, we're going 12-0 because the rest of our schedule.
No doubt.
And it's not a slight on anybody else we're playing. But if we win this week and next week, we'll screw around and go 12-0. And at that point, it doesn't matter what would happen in Atlanta. You're in the playoff. Doesn't matter. You're 12-0. If you go get beat, you're not going to drop from 1 to 5. You'll go 1 to 3 maybe. The only people that would drop out of the top 4 are teams number 3 and or 4 if they lose. But if you go as an SEC team at 12-0, you're going to be number 1. Just what it is. Like, it doesn't matter Ohio State, Michigan, Southern Cal, right? Old school Miami. If you're an SEC team that is 12-0 playing in Atlanta, you're the number 1 team. It's just what it is.
Yeah, that's very true. I see Tennessee winning out and being 12-0. That the one game I think is a hiccup will be facing Alabama again. If Alabama makes it, which I'm pretty sure that they probably will, facing Alabama again in Atlanta. Even though if Tennessee even loses that game, I think it depends on how close of a game it is as to where, who drops out, basically. Well, Georgia be one loss and drop, out of the top 4 or what have you. We talked about Ohio State.
Are we under the assumption they beat Georgia? So
yes,
if they beat Georgia and lose to Alabama, I think they're definitely in.
No,
right?
but this is the conversation that I've been having with a lot of people. This is why the championship weekend is pointless now. It's so pointless. It's just an extra game for money. And I say that because if we're there at 12-0, we're in regardless if we win or lose. So why even play the goddamn game?
It's almost turned into the SEC basketball tournament, and that's
okay. No, but it's the same thing with the Big Ten. If a Big Ten team is undefeated, whoever wins Ohio State, Michigan at the end of the year, whoever wins that's going to Indianapolis. If they're 12-0, they're in regardless. So why are they playing? It became pointless when the committee let Alabama in without playing in Atlanta, and when they let Ohio State in without playing in Indianapolis. That is instantly when the college football conference championship weekends became pointless because they proved they would let teams in that didn't even play there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it also depends. Go ahead.
I'm just coughing.
Oh, okay. I think it also depends on, honestly, what I think the college football committee would try to do is if I know that they say we don't go off of, past years and all that stuff. Well, I think that's BS because you put your blue bloods in there if you can, if it's a possibility. You go out after what they did last season, or how good they were last year. And I know they say they don't, but I think that's complete BS. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
But the only way I see Tennessee not making it, if they go 12-0 and if they go to the SEC championship, if Alabama was to beat them by a significant amount, and I don't think that would happen. But if Alabama,
I still say they're in though. That's the thing.
You still think they go?
If you're because here's the reason why. Who are you going to jump them with? Because if it's a 12-0 and your only loss is in the conference championship game, and they don't let you in, and you're number 1, it'll implode the whole system because of what they've done and how they've proven they'll play it. That it's just Georgia was in last year, no matter what happened. Clemson has always, when they went undefeated the ACC championship game, they were in no matter the outcome. Because if you don't let the number 1 team, if you're going to tell me that a team's going to drop from 1 to 5 because of the championship weekend and let a team that did not play in it in, it'll implode the whole system.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and tell you the team that's going to get in that shouldn't.
Clemson.
Yep, no doubt about it.
They should not be there. And that is not a slight on them. They can play with anybody defensively. They cannot play with anybody offensively. Their offense is stupidly predictable. It is like atrociously predictable. They don't let DJ go through any reads. It's not fun to watch. Now you watch them defensively and you go, whoo, damn, they're good. But they should not be there.
Agreed. I mean, they still have Notre Dame and they have South Carolina. And I know South Carolina's not that great. I get that. But I mean, there's still some hiccups. If Clemson's not, I mean, they barely beat Syracuse and probably shouldn't have. If
they should not have. They were not the better team.
Well, and you have a quarterback issue, for goodness sake. So if you're, that's another factor that can come into this decision with the college football playoff. If I've got a team and I'm trying to put together the best TV product, okay, and I got a team in Clemson with a quarterback issue, I would have no issue whatsoever if I'm on that committee putting if things okay. Worst case scenario for Tennessee, John, is they lose to Georgia, and then Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC championship game. Then Tennessee is going to be the odd man out. They're going to be the number 5 team, guaranteed. I don't like it, but I think that's
that's what I've said before. I earlier was saying the best case scenario is go 11-1 and not play in Atlanta because we'd get him. But if we go 11-1 and don't play in Atlanta, I'm afraid we're going to be the 0-3 Auburn and be the best team in the country and get left out.
I think that's what will happen. I'll tell you what I would do if I like to think of myself as being able to produce decent content. If I were the college football playoff and their first selection comes out, I would make Tennessee number 1. Because
one fan buzz.
Well, yeah, because that TV show, that college football playoff committee, that's a TV show. Okay, it doesn't matter. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the 4 teams after the season is over. So that's a TV show. So if you want to create fan buzz, put Ohio State at 4, put Tennessee at number 1, put Georgia at number 2, put whoever at Clemson at number 3. Then you create some fan buzz. And I don't think they'll do that, though. I think they'll take.
I mean, dude, here's the thing. You could argue. You could legitimately argue because remember, playoff definition is the best 4 teams. Does not matter conference. You could argue Clemson 1, Georgia 2, Ohio State 3, Bama 4. You could argue that. And then you got Michigan and Clemson on the outside looking in. Now, that would cause a lot of controversy. But remember, definition, best 4 teams. Doesn't say conference this, conference that, blah, blah. It is the best 4 teams.
Wait, so review your top 4. You put Clemson
you could
twice.
Argue that Tennessee 1, Georgia 2, Ohio State 3, Bama 4.
Yes.
Because Bama
you put
with
Clemson
a 1 is better than Clemson, no doubt. Michigan's better than Clemson, so they would be 5. Ohio State's better than Michigan right now, so that's why they would be in. And then the 3 other best teams are Tennessee, Georgia, and Bama. At this moment. That's just kind of what it is. I mean, Bama's only got 1 loss, and it's to Tennessee, so it's not like they're slouches.
No.
Right?
It was a close game. I mean, obviously we all saw it. It's a very, very, very close game.
Yeah,
so it's not like
they're deserving to at least be in that talk as well. So if you're going by that definition of the college football playoff, there's a legit 3 SEC teams that have a chance to be in that conversation. They'll never let it happen.
No.
But if you go by definition, they should talk about it.
No. And they're not going to take 3 SEC teams based off everybody that I've talked to, which
it'll never happen. No.
Yeah, but it probably should. I mean, if things play out, and we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, Bryce Young could decide that he's had enough of college football and wants to go pro, and then things change. But, I mean, all kinds of weird things could happen. But based off what I've seen so far right now, if I were to rank the teams with no preconceived preseason notion whatsoever, it's hard for me not to put Tennessee at number 1. It's impossible for me not to put Tennessee at number 1.
Well, if we're not going on preseason rankings, then you're right. Ohio State's going to be like 6, maybe 7 for me.